The recording is in progress. Got it.
Big Brother is watching you.
It's too late to leave the meeting. We're going to give it a couple more minutes because there's some people coming. But we might already start by just introducing ourselves. Maybe that's a good start in a minute. And also, I'd like to hear from you guys. Who of you works in a venue, and what brings you here? Venues first. Anyone working in a music venue?
Or a club or a
club festival?
Like organizing events?
One. Okay. And the rest is here for?
Well, there were snacks maybe. No?
Cinnamon buns.
A marketing agency, and we combine culture and art methods into business and practice.
Okay, cool. And what country?
Finland.
Finland. Is everybody Finnish? That's a question. That's a hard question to ask Finnish people. Somebody's got to say yes. We're all Finnish. There's a joke that if you ask a crowd of Belgian people, you know, if you hold a banana in front of them, say, what color is it? They first look at each other and they kind of have a mutual see. It's yellow, and they say it's yellow. And I think that's pretty much the way Finnish people are. So we've got an overview of the round. Can we start?
Well, I think we can wait a little bit more.
Okay, anybody else who's not marketing or clubs or venues or festivals? What brings you guys here?
I work in music streaming and digital music.
Perfect.
Digital download store. So, but I'm just interested. Well, I'm working the live sector at a festival rather at labels and just like a all round.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else?
General knowledge.
General knowledge.
Curious people here. It's nice.
So the people we're waiting for is mostly people from music venues, European music venues. So just in the next room listening to the presentation on numbers. I think that they're ready to run. This is going to be mostly about music venues.
Music events.
Music events, and I think that the whole story about working with audiences and audience development is also interesting for live streaming. That is slightly different.
Yeah, we're all part of a big music ecosystem, so yeah, it's quite relevant also to have digital platforms here and things like that. Hello, welcome to our afternoon talk.
Nice. We're just doing the presentation, and we know you're not finished. So that means you're either Dutch or Latvian.
Latvian,
no.
okay. Yes.
You got it wrong.
Yeah, we're waiting like 5 minutes for some more people.
But French one is
Okay. Hi.
Bonjour. Well, hello, come in. Or not.
It's the same.
Yeah, we were joking because there were some people at the back and we said, oh, you're welcome to come in the front row. And they told us, we're finished, we're socially not comfortable. So, and we're asking ourselves, what are the most in Europe, like comfortable people and the most shy?
Apparently the last comfortable. Very good.
maybe we.
Yes.
I'm gonna check. It's 34. We can wait for 35.
Yes, and do we need the microphones? We need them for the
Yeah,
live
for the
streaming
recording,
thing?
I think.
Yes, okay, so,
It's all right, Fernando.
okay, how many people are watching?
Right now, no one.
No one, okay, that's good.
Oh, maybe we can just skip the microphone.
No, because they need it for the recording.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Come in, do come in.
Hello, welcome.
So we've got some room in the front. We didn't get a music title. Music.
Yeah, it was only for the panels.
I know.
Do you have any idea of a music title? It could be Come Together again, or
It can't be.
what's the REM? You know, shiny happy people.
Shiny happy people, yeah.
Holding hands or not? Not
I
during
think we
COVID.
should go for a Belgian song. Thinking Stromae had the Bienvenue
Alors,
chez moi,
Bienvenue chez moi. Ah,
which is
yes.
very good. The
Yes.
audience development. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Bienvenue chez moi. Okay, let's go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let's. I'll just go and close the door.
Shall we close the?
Ask people to come in if they want to. Yes. Some people on the fence.
So we are ready to start. Thank you for waiting. Hello, everyone, either in this room or online, if there are any. My name is Juliette. I work for Live DMA, which is a European network for live music associations. And this is Ken Veerman. Who are you, Ken?
I'm Ken. I'm a Belgian consultant, and I work for music venues and cultural organizations, helping them with audience development and strategy.
Ooh, really impressive. Today we are going to talk to you about a tool, a practical tool that we have developed with the Live DMA network. So composed of, well, in total over 3,000 music venues, clubs and festivals in 17 European countries. And this tool, we created it in a bottom-up way, which means that we gathered some venue representatives to work on this. So it's really a bottom-up and collaborative tool for experimentation. Our aim, we hope, with this tool to change the perception of what is a concert. As you can see, we want this to be a really interactive session, so feel free to speak, raise your hands, ask questions. We'll be really happy to answer them. And for the people online, so all of you in the room have the tool on your seats in a paper. And for the people online, you can find it at www.live-dma.eu/try-angle, ANGLE. So that's for the short introduction. So Ken was involved in this working group that we did with the venue representatives to work on the tool. And maybe my first question to you would be, how was the triangle created more precisely? And well, where does it come from, basically?
Yeah, it's actually a two-part history. It starts in 2017 when we got together with Live DMA to work around audience development. And this was early days, and we were talking about how do you build new audiences for venues? How do you reach new people? How do you get more diversity in your venue? And then we realized that there were a lot of these best practices and very intimidating stories about how venues did really well, and we could never really apply them to your own venue because there's so many differences. But we realized that there was an underlying abstract concept of how that worked, and it had to do with the triangle between audiences, the venue, and then the artistic programming. And so if you change the audience, you do that by either changing the program or changing something about the setting in which you do the show. And so all of these venues, we had like a really bizarre theoretical concept. And I remember flying back home and on the plane writing down what we talked about, and it turned into like an abstract and boring academic talk about triangles and triangulation and doing things with, you know, Pythagoras. And so we left it there in 2017-18 because everybody was too busy. But then the pandemic hit and we had time on our hands, and some people from the 2017-18 club, we got back together online and we started working on a tool, because what we wanted to do was do away with the academic part and just make it something that's very accessible and very easy to use for music professionals. So it's not a boring lecture on how you should run your venue. It needs to be a tool that inspires people to develop their own methods from the reality of their own venue. And we were very inspired by the diversity roadmap that some of you saw this morning, which is basically a flow chart that starts with questions, and these questions lead you to other questions. And so that's like a triggering method to do a self-diagnosis of your venue and then see, you know, where that leads you. And we've managed to turn it into like a paper, it's on your seats, like a paper chart that you can follow. And these, of course, if you do the chart, you don't have a revolutionary new method. The method emerges from the questions you ask yourself and your venue. But these are very actionable questions and very logical things to ask yourself. But it's because you go through the entire listing that it makes sense, and that it creates new ideas of how you develop audiences.
Yeah, it's really a tool for self-reflection, for experimentation. I heard, I think in a presentation this morning, that it is better to make mistakes than do nothing. And I think the triangle is all about this. And also it's quite funny because, well, as you said, the second part of or creation process for the triangle was during the pandemic, fully online. And for us also, Live DMA as network, before the pandemic, we often used to meet our members in different countries, in international music conferences, well, like this here today, Tiny Music Week. And this method of online working groups was also an experiment for us as well. And I think if something positive came out of COVID is that's not only the tool, it is, of course, but also that we find new ways of collaborating. And we actually have never been so much in touch with our members than well, not so much, but so regularly in touch with our members than during the online meetings that we did. And yeah, can you tell us, Ken, how can small music venues or clubs or festivals or any music organizers, how can they concretely use the tool?
I think the tool and there's a lot of people coming in. I think the quality of the tool is that it starts with very simple questions. Like the first question is, do you have a mission statement? Yes or no? And it depends on if you have a mission statement or not, what the next question is going to be. And it leads you through even like really like detailed questions about, have you thought about changing the time at which you organize concerts? Have you thought about inviting different people to your concert? Have you thought about these very, very basic questions? But what they do is they lead to a conversation in your venue, and it's not just what you do right, but also the things that are missing in your strategy that are very insightful for your own venue. And so what we didn't want to do was have a lecture on this is what you should do. Here are four types of show that you should run if you want to develop new audiences, because we believe that that power is within the venue itself, and you know your work better than we do. But these questions help you trigger these is find the opportunities that you need. And it's more or less like a game. I think it takes about a good hour to go through the entire thing with your team. So that's an easy way of working, asking yourself the questions. And obviously, once you've realized that you've never played a show outside of your venue, and then that leads to questions about, should we do it? Who should we work together with? And so on and so forth. So it's the beginning of a new plan of attack, I think. But I think it's about an hour to play it, to go through it. And that's a good time to do the first self-diagnosis.
Yeah, and it can be really helpful also for the teams working at venues or festivals, like either the newcomers, the youngest members of the teams, to discover other ways of doing than what is done for many years, and yeah, just to brainstorm in a different way on why are we doing concerts? What do we want to share when we do a concert? Is it just a music moment, or is it something else, something more? And what do we want to bring to people, and what do we want people to bring to us as well? And actually, the paper version of the tool, I think it's written on it, but we really want people to be able to scribble on it, to write more questions, and to give us their feedback on, oh, I did this and it worked, or it did not work, because we can learn a lot from mistakes as well. And yeah, really we want people to make the tool theirs, actually.
Yeah, and what is very important about audience development as such is that I think a lot of venues are passionate about music and about booking bands, and that's what they live for, and that's why you do the job. And they're less passionate about the audience, because the audience is the people that show up for the great music. And I think this helps you look at your venue from a totally different perspective, which is, who are we actually working for? And so that makes it a totally different way of looking at your venue. And it's not about not working for the music. Obviously it is, but it's about developing the same passion for your audience and your future audiences that you now have for future music and new musical discoveries. So I think that for every venue, it's crucial to start thinking about who's going to be in the venue tomorrow, and not just who is going to go to the band that I've booked for next week. And this is going to be a crucial question. And I think this is you can have a boring TED talk on how you should develop audiences from all kinds of angles. I think this one is a very practical and fun way of doing it.
Yeah, and just I think we forgot to say it, but the triangle, it's a pun on a triangle, and try to see things from a different angle. So yeah, I put it there. And yeah, otherwise, I don't know if you have any questions or yes, Mark.
Is the triangle already done in practice by someone? Because I can imagine that what you say, Ken, that venue people start from booking bands, and that the fact that they have to think of the audience as well might be an inconvenient truth in a way.
Yeah, I think those are two separate things. Has it been tried by venues? A couple of them have tried it, but we're really in the stage where we have to test drive it. It would be a mistake to take this thing and then translate it into the 7 million languages that Europe represents. The first step is, I think, to test it with a couple of venues, and I'll see what works and what doesn't work. And it could also be that what works in Poland doesn't work in Italy, and we have to think about, have we made mistakes in this whole process? So it's an ongoing test. The other thing is, I think there's no excuse to not work with your audiences. It's a bad plan to not think about your audiences. I think booking great bands is half the work of a venue. The other half is making sure that at least 50 people show up for an unknown band. And I think some venues are really good at it. Some venues are really dependent on the name of the artist. And I think that we should all work, and that's the power of music and small music venues. You have to make sure that a good but unknown band deserves that 50 people of audience. So I think it would be a bad strategy to say we don't care about the audience. it will be just as bad as saying we don't care about the music as long as there's somebody in the music venue. You need the two, because that's what a music venue is. You bring people and music together.
Yeah, and we will actually within the Live DMA network, we will well, if everything goes well, try to recruit venues to help us and experiment this concretely and see, and well, really well, try the tool. They can give us their feedback. We can manage, well, just as Ken said, and see and adjust the tool accordingly. And I hope we will learn a lot from this. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say.
It seems as if during COVID, obviously venues can be open. So it seems as if this kind of air around what a venue is has shifted. I have two questions. How would you identify or how would you define what a venue is now in this post-COVID time? And can you talk about how this model can really be effective for not only a venue, but also collective, whether it's a DJ collective, whether it's an art collective, something beyond just the music.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I think you're totally right in saying that the COVID has changed our perspective of what a venue is. And well, if you read the tool thoroughly, if you take this 1 hour to read it, you will see that you can ask yourselves questions like, is a venue a building? Really, sometimes it is, sometimes it is not, and definitely this tool can be relevant for other musical organizations, collectives, as you say, because it's all about, as well as Ken said, creating the link between music and people, and as long as your organization does that, it works. Well, the tool works for that.
I think it's a very intriguing question, and I remember this morning. I don't know if Ingrid is here, but we talked about there's the word the venue, and then we have a word the club. But a club implies membership. It implies being part of a group of people, and I think that's going to be crucial in audience development, because that means that I want you to be part of what I'm doing, and so that could be a collective as well. And it's interesting to see if non-physical places going through the triangle, what they come up with. Does it work for them? Are there things that we've missed? I'm very interested in hearing how that works.
Are there any other questions? Well, otherwise, I have a question for you, if you want to answer it, of course. Well, would you be, for the people working in music, working with putting people together with and for music, would you be interested in using the tool, or does it seem like too experimental and too like we're in the future and we're or not? It's okay. Well, I think it's 5 minutes to 4, and we have a presentation at 4. So I don't know if you have a last word, Ken.
Yeah, I was interested in asking you a question. So yeah, to make it like a back and forth, which is that this is, as far as I know, the first time that Live DMA has developed a tool online with meetings with people, and not going the route of having physical meetings twice a year to develop this thing. We've worked on sometimes we work together every week with people. Is that something that, how was that experience of working with music venues on online and not physical basis?
Well, for me personally, it was during the first lockdown, and well, it was quite harsh. I guess everyone can relate to that. And our sessions, we did weekly sessions of 1 hour. It was very light, and it was really a moment I was looking forward to. And I think the whole thing basically was done in 8 hours of work, 8 weeks. Because yeah, and then we had time to think about it in between the sessions. And I think it's really efficient. And it's something at Live DMA also that we transpose to not only this topic of audience development, but other topics, just having short moments, regular and short moments of exchange. And I think well, especially in these times, it was really beneficial for everyone. And yeah, it made people feel less alone. And yeah, it's definitely another way of working that can suit us in the future. And yeah, well, as we say, it's all about experimenting, and we experimented during the creation of this tool. Well, not the creation, because but during the like putting it on paper and thinking, like maybe it's design thinking. I don't know if it's the word, but yeah, it's really an interesting way of working. And yeah, that's it. Okay, well done. Well, thank you for listening.